Earth had been alone in the universe for most of its history. Then, 5 years ago, everything changed when the Vidians arrived. They came in peace, offering friendship and knowledge. Now, that friendship was being tested in ways no one could have imagined. Commander Susan Miller stood on the observation deck of the Earth diplomatic vessel, the Stargazer. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her blue uniform was perfectly pressed. The massive Galactic Council ship loomed ahead, easily 20 times the size of their own vessel. Susan had never seen anything so enormous in space before. "Intimidating, isn't it?" said a voice beside her. Susan turned to see Ambassador Jack Howard, Earth's chief diplomat. He was a tall man with kind eyes and graying hair at his temples. "Very," Susan agreed. "Do you think they designed it that way on purpose? To make everyone else feel small?" Jack smiled slightly. "Probably. Politics is all about appearances, even in space." The invitation from the Galactic Council had arrived 3 weeks ago. After decades of isolation following Earth's discovery of faster-than-light travel, humanity had finally been invited to meet with the governing body that oversaw thousands of spacefaring species across the Milky Way. The message had been brief and concerning. Earth needed to answer for its associations. No one understood what this meant. Humans had only made contact with one alien species, the Vidians, a peaceful, technologically advanced race who had become valuable allies. The Vidians had helped Earth advance its medical technology, solving several deadly diseases and extending human lifespans. In return, Earth shared its art, culture, and resources. When asked about the Council's message, the Vidian leaders had seemed worried but assured Earth there was nothing to fear. Now Susan wasn't so sure. "It's time," Jack said, checking his watch. "The shuttle is ready to take us over." Susan nodded. As head of security for the diplomatic team, it was her job to keep everyone safe. She touched the pistol at her hip, a weapon she hoped she wouldn't need to use. The diplomatic team consisted of 5 people: Ambassador Jack Howard, Dr. Olivia Johnson, a xenobiologist, Dr. Alan Phillips, an expert in interstellar law, Communications Officer Peter Wright, and Susan herself. They boarded the small shuttle that would take them from the Stargazer to the Council ship. "Remember," Jack said as they approached the enormous docking bay, "we're here to listen and learn. Earth is new to the galactic community. We need to show respect." The shuttle landed softly in the docking bay, which was filled with strange ships of all shapes and sizes. Susan noted at least 30 different designs, evidence of the Council's vast membership. They were met by a tall, thin alien with pale blue skin and 4 arms. "I am Krell, assistant to the Grand Arbiter," it said in perfect English. "Please follow me to the Council chambers." Susan walked behind the group, taking in everything around them. The corridors were vast and filled with aliens of all descriptions, some walking on multiple legs, others floating, some that seemed made of light rather than matter. Despite her training, Susan felt a chill of unease. Humans were very much the newcomers here. After a long walk through winding hallways, they reached enormous double doors that opened automatically. Inside was a circular chamber with tiered seating all around. Representatives from at least 50 different species sat watching as the humans entered. In the center was a raised platform with a single seat, currently empty. "The human delegation will stand in the center," Krell instructed, pointing to a circular area below the platform. As they took their positions, a hush fell over the room. A side door opened, and an alien unlike any they had seen entered. The Grand Arbiter was tall and willowy with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. It moved with an unnatural grace and took its place on the raised platform. "Humans of Earth." The Grand Arbiter spoke, its voice deep and resonant. "You have been summoned here to answer a simple question. Why do you harbor criminals in your system?" Ambassador Howard stepped forward. "Grand Arbiter, with respect, we harbor no criminals. Earth is a peaceful planet." The Grand Arbiter's skin flashed red momentarily. "Do not play ignorant. You know of whom I speak. The species you call Vidians are known to us as the Morsith, criminals who have evaded galactic justice for centuries." Murmur went through the assembled representatives. Susan glanced at her colleagues and saw confusion on their faces. There must be some mistake, Jack said carefully. The Vidians have been nothing but peaceful allies to Earth. They've helped us cure diseases, advance our technology. While hiding from their crimes, the Grand Arbiter interrupted, the Morsith are responsible for genocidal acts against multiple civilizations. They are not the benevolent helpers they pretend to be. Dr. Phillips stepped forward. As an expert in law, I must ask, what evidence supports these accusations? The Grand Arbiter gestured, and a large screen appeared in the air. It showed images of devastated planets, burned cities, and what appeared to be mass graves. Susan felt sick looking at the images, but something seemed off about them. These are the results of Morsith aggression, the Grand Arbiter stated. Billions dead across 17 worlds, and now they hide on your planet, pretending to be friends while using you as shields against justice. Ambassador Howard remained calm despite the shocking accusations. We were unaware of any such history. The Vidians have shown no signs of aggression. Of course not, said a new voice. A reptilian alien had stood up from the audience. They never do until it's too late. Ask the people of Tarn 4. Oh wait, you can't. There are none left. More voices joined in, each with their own accusation against the Vidians. Susan watched as Jack tried to maintain his diplomatic composure in the face of growing hostility. Finally, the Grand Arbiter raised a hand and silence fell again. Humans of Earth, we understand you may have been deceived. Therefore, we offer you this chance. You have 30 Earth days to sever all ties with the Morsith and surrender them to galactic authorities. If you comply, Earth will be welcomed into the galactic community. If you refuse, Earth will be considered complicit in their crimes and dealt with accordingly. The threat was clear. Susan's hand moved instinctively to her weapon, but Jack gave her a slight shake of his head. We will need to discuss this with our government, Jack said evenly. These are serious accusations that require careful consideration. 30 days, the Grand Arbiter repeated. The countdown begins now. With that, the meeting was over. Krell appeared to escort them back to their shuttle. As they walked, the humans remained silent, aware they were being watched and likely recorded. Only when they were safely back aboard the Stargazer did anyone speak. What the hell just happened? Dr. Johnson asked, her face pale. We were just threatened, Susan said bluntly. Either we betray our only alien allies or face whatever dealt with accordingly means. Ambassador Howard sighed heavily. Peter, establish a secure channel to Earth. We need to report this immediately. As the others moved to their stations, Peter Wright, the communications officer, suddenly called out, Ambassador, I'm receiving an encrypted message from Vidian Prime. It's marked urgent and eyes only. Put it through to my private terminal, Jack ordered. Moments later, his face grew even more concerned as he read the message aloud to the group. Do not believe their lies. We must speak immediately. The fate of both our species depends on it. The United Nations Emergency Chamber in New York was filled with tense faces. World leaders and military commanders gathered around a large circular table, watching as Ambassador Jack Howard finished his report about the Galactic Council's ultimatum. President Laura Daniels sat at the head of the table, her normally calm expression replaced with deep concern. At 62, she had led Earth through many crises, but nothing like this. 30 days, she said, tapping her fingers on the table. They give us 30 days to betray the only aliens who've ever helped us, or face their wrath. General Christopher Allen, head of Earth's Defense Force, stood up. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a serious face marked by years of difficult decisions. Madam President, we need to consider our military options. If the Council decides to attack, we would be severely outmatched. We can't just abandon the Vidians, argued science advisor Olivia Johnson. She was smaller than most people in the room, but her voice carried weight from years of scientific accomplishments. They've helped us advance our technology by decades. Without their medical innovations alone, millions would have died. Jack Howard nodded in agreement. And they've never shown any signs of aggression or deception. Something doesn't add up. About these accusations, President Daniels looked around the table. What do we know about this Galactic Council? Can we trust anything they say? Very little, admitted Dr. Alan Phillips, the interstellar law expert who had been part of the diplomatic team. They've existed for thousands of years according to the Vidians, but they've never shown interest in Earth until now. Speaking of the Vidians, President Daniels said, I think it's time we heard their side of this story. Are they prepared to address us? Commander Susan Miller, who stood guard by the door, spoke into her communication device. Moments later, the doors opened to reveal the Vidian ambassador, Zelar, escorted by security personnel. Zelar looked unwell. His normally bright blue skin had faded to a sickly gray color, and the luminescent spots that usually dotted his tall, slender form were dim. Despite his alien appearance, the worry on his face was unmistakably similar to human concern. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Zelar said, his voice soft but clear. I know you must have many questions after what the Council told you. That would be an understatement, President Daniels said firmly. They claim your people committed genocide and are hiding on Earth to escape justice. These are serious accusations. Zelar's three-fingered hands trembled slightly. What the Council told you is a twisted version of history. Yes, we were once known as the Morsith, but we did not commit genocide. We refused to participate in it. A shocked silence fell over the room. Explain, General Allen demanded. Zelar took a deep breath. Centuries ago, the Galactic Council was not the large body it is today. It was controlled by three dominant species who believed in genetic superiority. They discovered several emerging intelligent species that they deemed evolutionarily unfit to join galactic society. Zelar's voice grew stronger as he continued. The Council ordered all member species to participate in what they called necessary pruning, the systematic elimination of these developing civilizations. Many species obeyed out of fear. We, the Morsith, refused. You refused to commit genocide, so they accused you of committing it instead? Jack asked, his brow furrowed. Yes. Not only did we refuse, but we also secretly helped many of these condemned species escape to uncharted regions of space. When the Council discovered our actions, they branded us as traitors and criminals. They attacked our homeworld, killed billions of our people, and forced the survivors to flee. We have lived in hiding ever since, changing our name and appearance, trying to build a peaceful existence away from Council influence, Zelar continued. When we discovered your world, we saw kindred spirits, a species that values individual rights and stands against tyranny. That is why we reached out to Earth. President Daniels studied Zelar carefully. Your story is compelling, Ambassador, but you understand we need more than just your word. The Council showed us evidence. Images of destroyed worlds they claim were your victims. Propaganda, Zelar said sadly. Those were likely images of our own worlds being destroyed by Council forces, twisted to fit their narrative. They've had centuries to perfect their lies. Dr. Johnson leaned forward. If what you're saying is true, we need proof that can stand against their accusations. Zelar nodded solemnly. There is evidence, records we've kept safe for generations. Historical data, original Council orders calling for the extermination, records of our evacuation efforts. But retrieving them means going to the heart of former Morsith territory, now under Council control. General Allen exchanged glances with President Daniels. You're suggesting we send a mission into Council space? That could be seen as an act of war. We're already at the brink of war, Susan Miller spoke up from her position near the door. If we have less than 30 days before they potentially attack Earth, we need to know the truth. President Daniels stood up. Ambassador Zelar, I need you to be completely honest with me. Is there anything else about your people that Earth should know? Any other secrets that might affect our decision? Zelar's eyes, three oval orbs of deep purple, locked with the President's. Only that we have grown to truly care for humanity. We chose Earth not just as a hiding place, but as a home. Many of us have formed deep bonds with humans. If you choose to hand us over to the Council, we will understand. But please know that would mean the death of every Viridian on and around Earth. Silence fell over the room again as everyone considered the implications. Finally, President Daniels made her decision. We need that evidence. General Allen, prepare our best stealth vessel for a covert mission into former Morsith territory. Ambassador Howard, you'll work with Zeeler to identify the exact location of these records. Dr. Johnson, assemble a team to authenticate any evidence we recover. She turned to address everyone in the room. Let me be clear. Earth does not abandon its friends based on unproven accusations. Until we have all the facts, the Viridians remain under our protection. This meeting is now classified at the highest level. No one discusses what was said here outside this room. As the meeting dispersed, Susan Miller approached Jack Howard. Ambassador, permission to volunteer for the mission. I want to see these records for myself. Jack studied her determined expression. I'll recommend you to General Allen, but be aware, Commander, this could be the most dangerous mission any human has ever undertaken. Susan nodded grimly. Someone has to do it, and I'd rather know the truth than live with doubt. Outside the Sci-Fi United Nations building, regular citizens went about their daily lives, unaware that decisions being made would soon determine the fate of not just Earth, but potentially numerous species across the galaxy. The USS Defiant moved silently through space, its black hull designed to absorb rather than reflect light. It was Earth's newest and most advanced stealth vessel, built with technology that made it nearly invisible to most detection systems. Now that stealth capability was being tested against the most advanced alien technology in the galaxy. Captain Nathan Parker stood on the bridge, watching as the dead planet grew larger on the main screen. He was a man of medium height with short, brown hair and sharp eyes that missed little. At 45, he had spent most of his life in space, but never on a mission with such high stakes. Status report, he said quietly, though there was no real need to whisper in the vacuum of space. Lieutenant Samantha Reed, the ship's tactical officer, responded without looking up from her station. She was younger than most of the crew, but her skills had earned her this position. 2 Council warships patrolling the outer system, sir. They don't appear to have detected us yet. Good. Let's keep it that way. Maintain stealth protocols. The mission briefing had been clear. Get in, find the evidence, get out, all without being detected. If the Council discovered an Earth vessel in this restricted system, it would be considered an act of war. With only 24 days left before the Council's deadline, they couldn't afford any mistakes. In the center of the bridge stood their guides, 3 Viridians who had once called this dead world home. The oldest, named Terax, pointed to a spot on the southern hemisphere displayed on the screen. There, he said in his musical voice. The vault is located beneath what was once our capital city. The entrance should still be intact, hidden beneath the ruins of the Scientific Academy. Commander Frank Dawson, who would lead the landing party, studied the location. He was a sturdy man with a calm demeanor that inspired confidence. Any defense systems still active down there? No, Terax replied. The Council bombing destroyed most of our technology, but the vault was designed to withstand such attacks. It is deep underground, protected by old but strong barriers. Captain Parker nodded. Commander Dawson, prepare your team for surface deployment. Full environmental suits. We don't know what conditions are like down there after all these years. Yes, sir, Dawson replied, then turned to address his team. Gear up. We drop in 30 minutes. The landing party consisted of Commander Dawson, Lieutenant Kelly Morgan, 2 security officers, and the 3 Viridian guides. They gathered in the shuttle bay, checking their equipment one last time, before boarding the small stealth shuttle that would take them to the surface. Lieutenant Morgan, a specialist in alien technology, examined her scanner. She was petite, with red hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, and had a brilliant mind for solving puzzles. These readings are strange, Commander. The planet shows almost no life signs, but there are energy signatures I can't identify. Council monitoring equipment, perhaps? Dawson suggested. Terax shook his head. Unlikely. The Council believes they destroyed everything of value here long ago. Those energy signatures may be from our own systems, still running on emergency power after all these centuries. The shuttle departed silently from the Defiant, dropping toward the dark planet below. As they descended through the thin atmosphere, the devastation became clear. What had once been a thriving world was now a graveyard of shattered buildings and scorched earth. Nothing grew here anymore. No plants, no animals, nothing but ruins and dust. "How long ago did this happen?" Kelly asked softly as she looked out at the destruction. 372 of your years," Terax answered, his voice heavy, with old grief. "I was not yet born, but our people never forget. This is what happens to those who defy the Council." The shuttle landed silently among the ruins. The team exited carefully, their environmental suits protecting them from the toxic atmosphere and extreme cold. Even through the suits, they could feel the desolation of this place. Commander Dawson activated his communicator. "Defiant, we've landed safely. Beginning our search now. Maintain radio silence unless emergency protocols are required." "Understood, Commander," came Captain Parker's voice. "Good luck down there." Guided by Terax, the team moved through the ruins of what had once been a magnificent city. The architecture was unlike anything on Earth. Graceful spires and curved buildings that somehow remained partially standing despite the devastation. What might have once been beautiful parks were now just empty craters. "This way," Terax said, leading them toward a large collapsed structure. This was the Scientific Academy, where our greatest minds studied the universe. They entered through a gap in the fallen walls, their helmet lights cutting through the darkness. Inside, the destruction was less severe. Some hallways remained intact, though everything was covered in dust. Terax led them to what appeared to be a dead end. He placed his three-fingered hand against a section of wall, and to everyone's surprise, it began to glow faintly. "Our systems recognize Viridian biology," he explained. "The entrance has been sealed since the attack, but it should still respond." The wall slid open silently, revealing a narrow staircase leading deep underground. The team descended carefully, weapons ready just in case. After several minutes of walking downward, they reached another door, which Terax opened in the same manner. Beyond lay a vast chamber filled with data storage units, crystalline structures that glowed with faint blue light. Lieutenant Morgan gasped in wonder. "These are incredible. The data storage density must be thousands of times greater than our most advanced systems." Terax moved to a central console. "Here we store our true history, the records the Council tried to erase. Everything you need is here. The original Council orders to exterminate those lesser species, our people's protests against these policies, and proof that the supposed genocide was actually the Council's mass killing of our people, who refused to comply with extermination orders." As Terax began transferring the data to devices compatible with Earth technology, a loud alarm suddenly blared through the chamber. "What's happening?" Commander Dawson demanded, raising his weapon. Terax's expression showed fear. "Security alert. Something has triggered the outer perimeter sensors." Lieutenant Morgan checked her scanner. "Multiple signals approaching from the north. They're moving fast." "Defiant, this is Commander Dawson," he said into his communicator. "We've been detected. Requesting immediate extraction as soon as we secure the data." "Understood, Commander," came the tense reply from Captain Parker. "Be advised, one of the Council warships has changed course and is heading toward your position. You have 15 minutes maximum." Terax worked frantically to complete the data transfer while the rest of the team prepared for a possible confrontation. The security officers took up defensive positions near the entrance. "Almost done," Terax said. "Just a few more." A massive explosion rocked the chamber, sending dust and debris raining down on them. One of the security officers was thrown against a wall by the blast. "Council security forces," shouted the other security officer, firing his weapon up the staircase. "They've found the entrance!" 2 weeks had passed since the Defiant's dangerous mission. The Earth's United Nations chamber was packed with representatives from every nation. Security was tight. No recording devices allowed, no outside communication. What would be discussed? Today would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. President Laura Daniels stood at the podium, her face showing the strain of sleepless nights, but also determination. Behind her sat the surviving members of the mission to the Viridian homeworld. "People of Earth," she began, 2 weeks ago, A brave team risked their lives to uncover the truth about our allies, the Vidians, and their history with the Galactic Council. Today I share what they found. Large screens around the room activated, showing the authenticated data recovered from the vault. Images, documents, and video recordings began to play, all with translations provided. The evidence is clear, President Daniels continued. The Vidians, once known as the Morsith, did not commit genocide as the Council claimed. Instead, they refused to participate in the Council's own program of extermination against species deemed evolutionarily unfit for galactic society. Murmurs spread through the room as people viewed the evidence. Council documents with official seals ordering the elimination of entire species. Records of Morsith scientists helping these condemned races escape to distant, uncharted regions of space. And finally, devastating footage of Council warships bombarding Morsith worlds, killing billions in retaliation for their defiance. The vault also contained this, President Daniels said, her voice growing softer. She pressed a button and a holographic image appeared, a recording of the last Morsith High Council meeting before their civilization fell. A Morsith leader spoke. "We face extinction for our choice, but history will show we chose rightly. We could not participate in genocide. If standing against the slaughter of innocent beings means our own destruction, then we accept this fate. Those of us who survive will carry the truth until a day comes when the galaxy is ready to hear it." When the recording ended, silence filled the chamber. Then Ambassador Jack Howard stepped forward to speak. "During our escape from the vault, we lost one of our Vidian guides. Lieutenant Kelly Morgan was severely injured. The Council knows. We were there and they know what we found. The 30-day deadline now means nothing. The Council will likely move against Earth sooner." General Christopher Allen took the podium next. "Our military options are limited. The Council's technology far exceeds our own. If they launch a full attack, our conventional defenses will not hold for long." "Then what do you suggest, General?" asked a representative from India. "We have one advantage," General Allen replied. "The Council operates on fear and misinformation. Most Council species don't know the truth about their own leadership's actions. According to our Vidian allies, many would be horrified if they learned the truth." President Daniels nodded. "Which is why we have made our decision. Earth will not surrender the Vidians. Instead, we will demand a formal hearing before the full Galactic Council where this evidence will be presented." The room erupted in voices, some supportive, others concerned. "This could lead to war," shouted one representative. "If we surrender the Vidians, we betray everything we stand for," countered another. President Daniels raised her hand for silence. "The decision has been made. A united Earth stands with those who oppose genocide, not those who ordered it. We have already transmitted our request for a formal hearing to the Council. To our surprise, they have agreed." "Why would they agree?" asked the representative from Brazil. "If this evidence is so damaging, why not simply attack us now?" Ambassador Howard answered, "Our best guess is that the current Council leadership doesn't believe we actually found conclusive evidence. They think we're bluffing, or that what we found is incomplete. They don't know we have their original extermination orders with their official seals. Or," added Commander Susan Miller, who had returned safely from the mission, "they're confident in their ability to control the narrative even with our evidence. They've been hiding this truth for centuries. Either way," President Daniels continued, "in 1 week Ambassador Howard will lead a delegation back to the Council chambers. They will present our evidence and demand justice, not just for the Vidians but for all species who have suffered under Council tyranny." The meeting continued for hours as details were discussed and plans made. Earth would not go into this confrontation unprepared. While the diplomatic team prepared their presentation, Earth's military forces were placed on high alert. The Vidians shared what defensive technology they could, upgrading Earth's shields and weapon systems. 5 days later, Ambassador Jack Howard stood in his office reviewing the final presentation. Commander Susan Miller entered, carrying a secure data tablet. "Final security checks are complete, Ambassador," she reported. "The delegation is cleared and the ship is ready. We depart at 600 tomorrow." Jack nodded, looking out the window at the night sky. "Do you think this will work, Susan?" Will the truth really matter to a body that's been lying for centuries? Susan considered the question. I don't know if it will matter to the leadership, but after seeing those records, I believe it will matter to many of the representatives. No one likes discovering they've been manipulated into supporting atrocities. I hope you're right, Jack said, because if you're wrong, we might be starting a war we cannot win. Maybe, Susan agreed, but it would be a war worth fighting. The Vidians chose to stand against genocide even when it cost them everything. Can we do any less? Jack smiled slightly. When did you become so philosophical, Commander? When I saw a dead world that once held billions of people whose only crime was refusing to kill innocent beings, she answered simply. Some lines must be drawn, no matter the cost. The next morning, the Earth diplomatic vessel departed for the Council headquarters. Unlike their first journey, this ship carried not just diplomats, but the truth about the Council's dark history. Ambassador Howard sat in his private cabin reviewing the evidence one last time. A message appeared on his screen, a personal note from President Daniels. Jack, whatever happens, Earth stands united in this decision. Make them hear the truth. If they choose war over justice, then history will judge them, not us. Jack closed the message and looked at the small team that would accompany him into the council chambers. Among them was Zealer, the Vidian ambassador, who had insisted on facing the council himself. Are you ready? Jack asked him. Zealer's normally. Blue skin had regained its healthy color, and his eyes showed not fear but resolve. For 3 centuries my people have waited for this day. We are ready, Ambassador Howard. The question is the council ready for the truth? The Galactic Council chambers looked different today. When Ambassador Jack Howard had first entered this vast room 2 weeks ago, it had felt threatening and alien. Now, as he stood with his team ready to present Earth's evidence, it merely seemed like what it was, a meeting place designed to intimidate newcomers. The chamber was filled to capacity. News of Earth's challenge had spread throughout the Council worlds. Representatives from over 100 species watched with various expressions of curiosity, hostility, or cautious interest. Jack glanced at his team. Commander Susan Miller stood, alert, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. Zealer, the Vidian ambassador, waited calmly beside them, though Jack knew the tremendous courage it took for him to stand before the body that had nearly destroyed his people. The Grand Arbiter entered and took the central platform. Today, its skin shifted between deep blue and purple hues, colors that Jack had learned indicated displeasure among its species. The Council recognizes the human delegation from Earth, the Grand Arbiter announced, its voice echoing through the chamber. You have requested this hearing to present evidence regarding the Morsith criminals. You may proceed, but be warned. Falsifying evidence before the Council is itself a serious crime. Jack stepped forward. Grand Arbiter, honored representatives, we come before you not to falsify, but to reveal truth that has been hidden for centuries. He activated the presentation system they had been allowed to bring. The first images appeared, Council documents bearing official seals from 3 centuries ago. These are the original Council orders, recovered from a secured vault on the former Morsith homeworld. They explicitly command the extermination of 17 developing civilizations deemed evolutionarily unfit for galactic society. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Grand Arbiter's skin flashed red. Those documents are forgeries. The Morsith were masters of deception. They are authentic, Jack replied calmly. Your own authentication systems have verified the molecular dating and official seals. But if you doubt these, perhaps you will find this more convincing. The next evidence appeared, video recordings of ancient council sessions where the extermination plans were discussed openly. Several current council members shifted uncomfortably as they recognized their species' ancestors participating in these discussions. The Morsith, now known as Vidians, did not commit genocide. Jack continued. They refused to participate in it. When ordered to help exterminate developing civilizations, they instead helped these civilizations escape to uncharted regions of space. More evidence appeared, showing Morsith ships evacuating civilians from planets targeted for destruction. Then came the most damning evidence. Recordings of Council warships bombarding Morsith worlds, killing billions in retaliation for their defiance. For their mercy, the Morsith were nearly exterminated, Jack said, his voice growing stronger. The survivors were forced to flee, change their appearance, change their name, and hide for centuries. The very genocide they were accused of was actually committed against them. The council chamber had grown eerily quiet. Many representatives were viewing the evidence with expressions of shock or disgust. Others seemed angry, but Jack couldn't tell if their anger was directed at the human delegation or at the revelations themselves. The Grand Arbiter's skin had turned a mottled gray. "These are historical matters, Ambassador. Even if what you show has elements of truth, it happened centuries ago under different leadership." "Different leadership, same policies," Jack challenged. "Earth has observed how the Council still treats developing civilizations. Those deemed worthy are controlled through technology restrictions and resource quotas. Those deemed unworthy simply disappear from galactic records. The methods may be more subtle now, but the philosophy remains unchanged." A representative from a species Jack didn't recognize suddenly stood. "I request permission to address the Council." The being was tall with forearms and golden skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. The Grand Arbiter hesitated, then nodded, reluctantly. "I am Krelnos of the Bendari," the representative began. "For 200 years my people have served on this council. We were told the Morsith committed unspeakable crimes. We believed these claims without question. But these records match our own historical archives, which show unexplained disappearances of 17 developing civilizations during that period." Another representative stood, this one with a form like a praying mantis. "The Voltar delegation has similar records. We were junior members when these events occurred, with no power to question the dominant species. But we remember." More representatives began to speak up, many expressing shock or outrage at the evidence. The Grand Arbiter attempted to restore order, but the chamber had erupted into dozens of heated discussions in various languages. Jack exchanged glances with Susan and Zeeler. Their strategy was working. The truth was causing fractures within the council itself. Finally, a thunderous sound cut through the noise as the Grand Arbiter struck the floor with a ceremonial staff. "Enough. This hearing will adjourn while the council leadership evaluates this evidence in private." "No," came a strong voice from the assembly. It belonged to a representative with crystalline features who stood with surprising authority. "For too long, decisions have been made in private by the inner circle. This evidence will be evaluated here, publicly, with all members present. I call for an immediate vote of confidence in the current leadership." A roar of approval went up from many representatives. The Grand Arbiter's skin turned almost black with what Jack assumed was rage or fear. "This is unprecedented," the Grand Arbiter protested. "So is the evidence of past crimes," replied the crystalline being. "Times change, Arbiter. Perhaps leadership should too." What followed was a chaotic but important process as the council began to fracture along ideological lines. Old alliances broke apart as representatives demanded answers about past policies and current practices. Several senior council members who had served for centuries were immediately suspended pending investigation. After hours of debate, a temporary governing committee was formed with representatives from 12 different species, none of whom had held power during the Morsith persecution. The committee's first act was to officially clear the Vidians of all charges and acknowledge the historical crimes committed against them. Their second act was to invite Earth to join the Council as a full member, with Ambassador Howard serving as Earth's first official representative. 6 months later, Earth hosted an unprecedented gathering. In the newly constructed Galactic Embassy in Geneva, representatives from Earth, Viridia, and over 30 Council worlds who had broken away from the old power structure met to form a new alliance, the Galactic Cooperative. Captain Nathan Parker, now Admiral Parker after his successful mission on the Defiant, watched as President Daniels signed the founding document. The principles were simple but powerful. mutual respect among all intelligent species, protection for developing civilizations, and collective security against threats to galactic peace. The irony isn't lost on me, Admiral Parker said to Zeeler, who stood beside him. They thought threatening Earth's ally was their path to maintaining control. Instead, it became their fatal error, Zeeler replied. They never understood that true strength comes from cooperation, not domination. Your species reminded the galaxy of that fundamental truth. As the ceremony concluded, surprising news arrived. Ships had been detected at the edge of the solar system. They carried representatives from those supposedly unfit species that the Vidians had helped escape centuries ago. Having monitored galactic communications, they had decided it was finally safe to emerge from hiding. President Daniels addressed the gathering as the news spread. Today marks not just a new chapter for Earth and Viridia, but for all species who value freedom and truth. The stars will no longer belong to those who dominate through fear, but to those who cooperate through mutual respect. Susan Miller, now a senior diplomat, stood watching the celebrations. Quite a change from a month ago when we were preparing for war, she said to Jack Howard. That's what happens when you stand for what's right, even against impossible odds, Jack replied with a smile. Sometimes you find you're not standing alone after all. In deep space, the last loyal Council warships retreated toward their core. Worlds, their power diminished but not yet broken. The old order would not fall without a fight, but for the first time in centuries the galaxy had an alternative to their rule. One built on truth, justice, and the unexpected strength of Earth's stubborn refusal to abandon its friends.